If you go to the Korean Museum of National History and you pay attention, close attention, you'll notice a curious historical silence. In and amongst the detailed portrayal of the country's cultural evolution and suffering under Japanese colonization into the modern day, there is a gap of about a decade between 1945 and 1954. The information from one panel to the next simply jumps 9 years. Now, museums have to be selective about what they display. There simply isn't room for everything, so it's only reasonable that they would skip a few years or decades here and there. But this is a particularly interesting 9 years to omit. More interesting still when you notice that through the rest of the exhibit, there is no mention of a very notable change to come out of this unmentioned period. Cemeteries are wonderful places to learn the history and culture of a people, and the Seoul National Cemetery is no exception. The cemetery was built in 1955 and is the final resting place of some 54,000 Korean soldiers killed in action. There are 13 memorials at the Seoul National Cemetery, an overwhelming number of them dedicated to the same period that the National History Museum conveniently forgot. The statues mainly remember the soldiers, known and unknown, who died in the Korean-American War. The memorials try to include symbols for life and familial love. The figures in the statues portray the brave soldiers who fought in the Korean-American War and in the subsequent years defended South Korea from North Korea. It refers to the South Koreans who died in battle as heroes, defenders of freedom, peace, and prosperity. There is no mention of the North Koreans who perished in battle. History in East Asia is a surprisingly contentious topic, with the question of how the period of Japanese colonization is discussed being the cream of the crop of hot-button issues. Historical narratives go a long way to shaping ethnic and national identities. South Korea has adopted a split identity when it comes to the former Japanese colonization, victims and rebels. But when it comes to the Korean-American War and the division of North and South Korea as distinctly different countries, they seem to skirt around the issue. The lack of acknowledgement of North Korea in the National History Museum reflects a decision about South Korean identity. Sokyo Park from Link, an organization that helps North Korean refugees, talked about how though the Koreans see themselves as one people, South Koreans also see themselves as distinctly different from North Koreans. At this point, that isn't too surprising. South Korea has developed into an uber-modern, innovation-centric country that is constantly pushing to remain cutting-edge and hold its place on the world stage. None of these things can really be said about their brethren to the north, so it's understandable that they may not want to spend too much time focusing on it. This being said, the silencing of the Korean-American War and the division of Korea in their public history, while at the same time celebrating the bravery of those who defended the South from the North, creates a polarization in what was once one sole country, and denies a large part of the historical narrative, seemingly in order to further propel the identity as victims of and rebels against Japanese colonization.